Tonight on the Daily Wrap, Pope Francis spoke before Congress this morning. Pennsylvania Congressman Mike Kelly was there, and we'll talk to him about that historic speech. Donald Trump and Fox still at odds, but Mr. Trump may have a new war in his hands, this time with a fellow presidential candidate. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the Daily Wrap, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, along with Rick Unger. Second straight day for confession for you. Apparently they had to stretch it out over 48 hours.
You know, he was supposed to go home today, and then there was me, so yeah.
And the litany.
He had to stay a few extra days.
What do you think of day 2 of the Pope visit? It's huge.
I'm enjoying it immensely. I watched it all this morning. You know I like this man. And I just think it's great that he's around. I hope that the media will not overly politicize it. It's not necessary. Let's just enjoy the fact that he's here, and it's exciting, people.
All right. Well, to his right, she's a Philly attorney and America's pundit. Heather Hansen is back once again. And finally, to her right, he's the editor of thewisdomdaily.com and a Washington Post contributor, Brad Hirschfield, here once again. Okay, everybody, let's get right to the Daily Download. And today in Washington, Pope Francis gave a well-received speech to members of Congress that even brought Speaker of the House John Boehner to tears for the 18th time this month. Before we get to Congressman Mike Kelly, we witnessed the event firsthand. He did anyway. Let's look back on what the Pope said as he took a page from President Obama's prayer breakfast speech, saying no religion is immune from extremism that results in violence.
Our world is increasingly a place of violent conflict, hatred, and brutal atrocities, committed even in the name of God and of religion. We know that no religion is immune from forms of individual delusion or ideological extremism.
That's pretty good English. Okay, the Pope also spoke out about climate change as well, an issue that has bothered many conservatives.
We need a conversation which includes everyone, since the environmental challenge we are undergoing and its human roots concern and affect us all. I'm convinced that we can make a difference. I'm sure.
And in a move that I'm sure made traditional Catholics happy, the Pope spoke out about the sanctity of life.
The Golden Rule also reminds us of our responsibility to protect and defend human life at every stage of its development.
Okay, so huge applause there by Congress. Boehner, we didn't get crying on there. It looked like he dried up at that point.
Give him a break. Even I'm giving him a break.
You're giving him a break.
It's not. This is not political. I'm sure for John Boehner, it was a very emotional moment. He is I know, a believing Catholic. He's tried for years to get a pope to come.
Yes.
And you know what? What the heck?
Good for you, Rick. You know? He's getting above all the partisan bickering and whatnot.
This is spiritual. This is not partisan. And, you know, that's how I feel about what he had to say today. There were some things I agree with him on. There were some things I may not agree with him on. So what? You know, people make a mistake here. Yes, he is technically the leader of a country, but we don't turn to him for his power as a leader of a country. He's turned to for his spiritual guidance, and you don't have to agree with everything he says. It doesn't diminish the importance of his role in the world, and nor should it.
Is that the way our society is built now, particularly around media, that we have to take every topic? I remember the World Cup was on, was it last year? And it came down to a blue-red issue, where liberals were saying they like soccer, and then conservatives were saying, well, you're wimps because you like soccer and there's no contact. Like, even soccer wasn't sacred. So even here, the Pope visits, and all I hear all day was some of the type of analysis you hear from Rick, and then the other side of it is, well, you know, should religious leaders be getting this political?
He's not supposed to be a tiebreaker, you know, as between the two sides. It's interesting, you watch that and you see Joe Biden, who is a Democrat and a very, very strong Catholic, and you see Boehner, who's also a very strong Catholic and yet a Republican. They both have their strong beliefs, and there's going to be some things the Pope says that they agree with and some that they don't agree with, and he's not meant to break political ties. He is meant to be a spiritual being.
I'm about to slip into what I was just kind of railing against, which was, you said Biden was a strong Catholic, but he's pro-choice. So can he be a strong Catholic? And
apparently, in his mind, he can't.
But that's the whole point. What the Pope is pointing to is that we have to get rid of the easy polarizations that are dividing our society, and that has been the motif he keeps returning to, and what makes him a great spiritual leader.
And I would just quickly caution that just because somebody is pro-choice does not mean they're pro-abortion. Right. So the vice president could be very strongly against abortion, but doesn't feel that he can impose it on somebody else.
Okay, I'm pro-adoption. No one says that very often. There's not enough babies to adopt in this country. A topic for another time, because we're bringing on Pennsylvania Congressman Mike Kelly, who joins us from Washington as promised. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Good to be with you. Rick, how you doing, buddy?
How are you, pal? Good to have you.
I'm good.
You guys, bowling partners practically. It's a shout out before you even come on. All right, so
let me just say quickly, Mike Kelly and I disagree politically on what time it is. But I consistently say he is one of my favorite members of Congress because he's a congressman for all the right reasons, and he's a good man.
And he's always buying, right?
And he still hasn't given me a discount on a new car, but I let it go.
All right. You have to own a car first, normally. Anyway, some people see Pope Francis, as we were talking about before, a little divisive, especially over comments regarding global warming. What is your view on the Pope, not only as a Catholic, but also as a conservative legislator?
Well, first of all, the Pope didn't mention global warming. He mentioned the environment. I think the one thing that we all missed today, or at least the people I've heard so far, the Pope's message was really that I came here for the world meeting of the families. That's what brought him to the United States. And so he said, well, I'm here. I'm going to do these other things. So he was in Washington. He's going to go to New York. He's on his way to New York, and he'll be in Philadelphia. And I think really what we try to parse and try to figure out is this a liberal pope? Is this a radical person who doesn't believe one thing or another? No, I think this is a pope that delivered a very clear message today to anybody who was willing to open their mind and listen with a very thirsty ear. This was something that was really very, for me, being a Catholic, being in the presence of the Holy Father, and having him address us as a group, I thought was an incredible opportunity. I really feel sorry for the folks that decided not to be there, or who sat there and said, this is not a pope I want to listen to. I think that's the problem in life in general. I don't think, and Rick just said something that's very clear, every time I sit down with Rick, I want to hear what he has to say, and he wants to hear what I have to say. It's a mutual respect we have for our thought process, and say we can come together on so many things. No, I thought the Pope today was very clear. He was very clear on the family. He was very clear on life. He was very clear on all those issues that conservatives say, well, that's exactly what I'm talking about, but I don't like maybe a way he went about it. I can't tell you that sitting there and listening to the Holy Father and being there yesterday morning at the White House and then being at Mass yesterday afternoon, that I came away with anything other than a feeling that there was a tremendous amount of calmness that descended on this city yesterday. His very presence here, there were no scowls, there were smiles, there was nobody pushing and shoving. Even though there were great throngs of people, they weren't angry, they weren't mad, there wasn't a lot of angst. There was a calmness and a serenity that descended upon the city and has settled here now. And I am so happy that we had the opportunity, and I'm saying as a person now, and as a legislator, that's one thing. I wanted to hear what the Pope had to say. We all have a tremendous responsibility to our fellow man. This is the part of humanity that I think that sometimes gets lost in the political morass that's out there. His message was great. His message was spot on. His message to me was not one of somebody who's a liberal or somebody who's a conservative, but somebody who's a very holy person and has a great respect for life. And I really enjoyed being able to sit there and soak that in. To me, it was a wonderful spending of time the last couple of days.
Mike, you're such a politician. You ran out all the time. The clock's gone.
You're so going to heaven, Mike. I'll say that. If you weren't before that, you are now. So anyway, thanks for coming on tonight. Are we holding them, guys, until the next break? Do you want to have some more questions for Mike? Sure. All right.
Listen,
Stick around, Mike. We're going to talk to you a little bit more, okay?
I really would. And Rick and I could probably talk for hours. I know not a lot of people want to buy into that, but I'd love to sit and talk for a little bit longer. I got to tell you guys, this was transformational.
Stick around, Mike. I got to go.
We got to
be back in a second.
break.
Stick around.